All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, January 9th. We have an 8-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment. That'll take you to all of my final plays absolutely free, so what I'm actually rolling with myself, if that does interest you. And you know what? Yesterday was a damn good night. A 4-1 night. The only L we took, and I'm pretty salty about it, was the same game parlay. We were all over the Pascal Siakam having a good game. He had a phenomenal game. Benedict Mathurin, 8 points. We needed 12 from him to cash this and to complete the sweep. Benedict Mathurin, you are owed that womp womp. I saw him miss back-to-back layups, and then on one play in which he probably could have just taken it strong and gotten fouled, he tried this like crazy dunk, and I was like, what are we doing, buddy? So Benedict Mathurin lets us down. I was thinking about etching him onto a headstone for the DNB graveyard. Right now, all we have is Paul George in there, but you know what? Mathurin's only let us down once this season. I feel like I'd be a little bit too harsh. And we had a decent night overall. We cashed the Bucks money line and Giannis 25+ same game parlay, which may be a little lucky because Giannis finished with 25. Brook Lopez may have been our best look on the night. Over 1.5 3-pointers made. He went ballistic, and that was a plus money play. Pelicans team total under, also a very good look. And then Malik Beasley over 16.5 points. He had 16 at halftime. So 3 of our 4 winners were very good looks there. The Bucks one, yes, maybe we had to sweat out, but nonetheless, a 4-1 night. And you know what? We'll take another cha-ching. As kind of wishy-washy as we've been lately, we'll take sort of a dominant night. And I will say this, we've been getting a lot of comments, and I tried to do it a little bit there, but we've been getting a lot of comments about potentially, diving into recaps a little bit more, talking about our plays more from the previous night. Let me know in the comments if that is something that is of interest. I'm of the mindset of, we'll recap, get in, get out, and move on to this game, but if we do want to kind of either dwell in or celebrate our wins and losses there, let me know in the comments if we do want to kind of spend, I don't know, maybe 30 more seconds, a minute more on the recap from last night, kind of going through it. I'm game for whatever, so let me know in the comments. In terms of the ride of the day, unfortunately, we already dropped the womp womp, but we're dropping it again here. Cal, RJ Barrett over 20.5 points. RJ Barrett finished with, I believe it was, 16 or 17? I think 16. Unfortunately, does not come through here. He's playing his old team, right? The Knicks, and even Cal says he's been averaging, 24 points against them. Just finishes a little bit shy yesterday. So that is unfortunate. Cal did have nice little ride of the day run for us there. But if you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, just use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments, or ROTD. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. You also get a shout out over on my X/Twitter, which will be popping up here throughout the show. And we put it with the final plays on the Guy Boston Sports site. If you do win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you lose, like Cal did today, you gotta face the womp womp. But I've seen bangers from Cal in the comments for a long time now, so I'm not worried about him potentially having a bounce back at some point with the ride of the day. But we are looking for someone new today. All plays got to be inside minus 150 to qualify. But what do you say we jump into this slate here? Like I said, 8 games. If I'm being honest, it's kind of a dud of a slate. Like, there's not too many amazing spots here, but overall, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm sure we can find some spots that we like. We're starting off with Cleveland taking on Toronto. We have Cleveland, who played last night against OKC. What a good game, right? And Cleveland ultimately pulls it out. I do think if Cleveland was on the road and OKC was at home, that could flip, but what a really good game. Cleveland now 32-4 on the season after that 129-122 win against OKC. I would still say this is a Cleveland spot, but I don't think that I can jump to them after like a heart-throbbing type of victory yesterday. Like, did you see, if you watched that, how they celebrated afterwards? Like, they definitely took that game seriously, and once they won it, they were jumping on each other's backs and stuff, so that was a big game for them. This could easily be sort of a letdown spot, but you throw into the mix that, well, Toronto's also on a back-to-back here, and they're coming off of a 14-point loss to New York. They're on the road trip. It's like all of a sudden what I would have thought would be an advantage for them is kind of a wash. So yeah, I'll lean Cleveland minus the points. I really don't think I get there myself. If this is a standalone game and Cleveland was not on a back-to-back, I would consider it. I think that they are, head and shoulders better than this team. We just saw them, I think, win by 16 points last time they played a while back, something like that, right? But coming off of a big win against OKC could be a flat spot for them, but I just can't get to the Toronto side. In terms of what we have from a total, I don't mind the idea of a Toronto team total under. That may be the only thing that I'm considering here in this spot. Now, can Toronto run? Sure, but they're going to shoot a lot of shots in the restricted area, and Cleveland this season number 8 in terms of points in the paint. Now, OKC is going to inflate some numbers because OKC had a decent game in the paint, but how could you stop OKC in the paint, right? Shea is just absolutely a monster. So I do think this is a spot for Cleveland to be able to kind of take their thumb and squish it on Toronto to some degree. But again, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, but they're coming off of that huge win. Like, are they going to be put together and whatnot? Are guys going to play full minutes against what you consider not that great of a team? Like, Toronto's 1-16 this season on the road. You think Cleveland's really fretting about them right now? Not sure. So I would lean towards Toronto, team total under for a total. In terms of player props, nothing that I'm liking as of right now. Cleveland should have a decent time scoring, both in the paint and I would say definitely from the perimeter. But that being said, a lot of their guys played a lot of minutes last night. So I don't think that I want to touch this one and dig into it too much. And honestly, if I were to give any advice here, I would say maybe think the same. Because Cleveland, this is on paper a spot for Cleveland, but you throw in the fact that they just hoot and hollered like they won the championship last night, could have a little bit of a flat spot coming up. I'm not taking that information and leaning towards Toronto, but I could see it happening at the same time. All right, Orlando taking on Minnesota, and I would say the biggest thing to note here is Paolo Banchero is listed as a game-time decision. He may be coming back, so yeah, I mean, that would be obviously a massive add to this team. He's missed, how many games has he missed? Do we have that here? He hasn't played since October 30th. I wonder how many games he's missed, to be completely honest. I don't have that in front of me, but he's obviously missed a ton of games, right? So unfortunate for him to have missed games, but really fortunate to the Magic that he may be coming back. I will say, it's still kind of a kick in the you-know-what that they have Franz Wagner out, Jalen Suggs now out, Gary Harris now out. So to me, this still may end up looking like a Minnesota spot. Minnesota cashed for us last time we took them. That was in a game against who'd they play when we just took them? The Pelicans, right? They were only 5.5 point favorites against the Pelicans, and I was like, we cannot miss that spot. And it was a close game, but they ultimately pull out a 104-97 win. Orlando is coming off a nice win against New York, 103-94, and I've been surprised by Orlando all season long, right? Like, the more and more they get injured, the more and more somehow they are pulling out some stops and winning some games. So I do give them credit there, but to me, this should just be a spot in which, Orlando continues to play well. Minnesota continues to play well. I've been saying it, all year long. At some point, Minnesota's going to hit their stride. Milwaukee's going to hit their stride. There's a few of these teams that I do think are on their way, and Minnesota now 2 straight wins. I put a little bit more weight into the Clippers win than I do the Pelicans win, but if you're on Orlando, I don't really want to talk you off of it. That's a very sound defensive team. You can even see the total sitting at 203, so, we're expecting this to be a very low-scoring defensive game also, so I get it if you like Orlando in this spot, but you know what? I think Minnesota's the better team and better basketball, playing better basketball right now. So I'll lean towards them. If they can get their 3-ball going, they should be able to run away with this. Orlando, second to last in terms of points from 3 per game. They're much more of an interior team, and even still, their offense isn't necessarily cooking, whereas I think Minnesota has the ability to cook on offense, and we know that they're going to gun some threes in. And it looks like Dante DiVincenzo's getting the start as well, so the way he's been playing and hitting some threes, I think that's just an added boost to being able to get out of the gates fairly quickly. So yeah, I'll lean towards Minnesota in this one. That total at 203, I almost just want to blindly lean towards the over, because if we have any uptick in pace or any uptick in success offensively from either one of these teams, 203.5 seems super low. And again, this is a game in which I'm not exactly loving any player prop spots. We do have a couple player props today, don't worry, but like I said, it's not exactly the sexiest slate. I'm not forcing any player props or any plays, just in general, especially after a nice 4-1 night last night. But I guess if I was a new customer over on Underdog, I would have to play this free pick for Kevin Durant, right? Check out Underdog, guys. That link is going to be in the description as well as the pinned comment. I said player props may be few and far between today, But 0.5 points for one of the best scorers in NBA history, Kevin Durant, I think we're taking the higher on that one. New customers right now, sign up. You can use the code GUYBOSTON or just use the link in the description as well as the pinned comment. Get this Durant 0.5 square. You're also going to get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus, and you can see on the graphic right here, you can win up to 1,000 extra money over on Underdog. If you're not aware of what it is, all you do is pick higher or lower based on player set projection. So I think we're taking higher on 0.5 points for Durant, right? You put multiple of those picks into an entry. The more you win, the more you go ahead and get paid out. So go ahead and check out Underdog, guys. It's amazing for football, and we have football playoffs coming up. So go ahead and check it out. That link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. You're getting that Kevin Durant free pick today. Let's go ahead and jump back into these games here. All right, Detroit is taking on Golden State, and you might look at this one and kind of scratch your head like, wait, Detroit's favored over Golden State? And yeah, you're seeing that correctly, but on the Golden State side of things, we have a plethora of injuries. Steph Curry, questionable. Dennis Schroeder, questionable. Draymond Green, questionable. Jonathan Kuminga, out. Brandon Podemski, out. Gary Payton, out. Even Moody's listed as questionable. So there's a ton of injuries over on Golden State side of things. Now, Jaden Ivey and Amen Thompson, or Asar Thompson, excuse me, his brother, also listed as game time, or actually they're listed as out already. So it looks like they're not playing. I'm trying to see if that's updated, or was that from yesterday. Either way, Jaden Ivey's going to be out, and I think Asar Thompson's going to be out as well. So we do have tons of injuries in this one. Really weird because, again, you look at this and optically it's like, wait, Detroit's favored over Golden State, but Detroit is sneakily, and I don't know if it's sneaky because they are playing well. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They're 6-4 against the number and 7-3 to the over in their last 10. So they're playing some damn good basketball. We saw this matchup about a week ago, and that was a 113-109 win in Golden State for Golden State. Now, that was a Steph Curry. I think he had like 27 points. Clay, what was that? Did they play this year, or am I looking at another box score from last year? Hold on, let me check the notes here, because you know that I can be a dummy with these dates. I'm still not used to 2025. Boom. I knew it. The minute I started to look at that box score, I was like, I don't remember seeing that game. All right, so that was last year. Last time they played, Klay Thompson had 20 points. Steph Curry had 26, so they don't have potentially either one of those guys. Klay Thompson, obviously, in Dallas, and now Steph Curry listed as a game-time decision, and Detroit still kept it to 4 points. So I understand why they're favored in this spot. They're playing better basketball than I would say Golden State is right now, right? And they're at home, and just throwing the fact that, Golden State, it's going to be a shell of the Golden State team they saw last time. It may be kind of crazy, but screw it, I'll lean Pistons. Now, I do think that this is a spot in which the Warriors have been kind of waiting for, if I'm being honest. Like, they've been so up and down and had such a bad run, but they've played some damn good teams during this run. Minnesota, they've played Cleveland, they've played, Memphis, Sacramento, who I guess Sacramento isn't exactly all that great of a team, but Sacramento beat them by, 20 points? 30 points, actually. So, yes, I do think that this is a spot in which Detroit isn't the best basketball team on paper. They're playing well, but maybe Golden State's able to bounce back today. I don't think that that's necessarily a smart spot to look unless we get news that Steph is playing, unless we get news that, some of these guys that are questionable are playing. Like, if Schroeder plays and Steph doesn't, I think that's going to be an opportunity for him, obviously, right? To be able to go out there and play well. So yeah, I'm gonna still lean towards Detroit, but if you are on Golden State, and again, you'll hear me say this a few times during this slate, guys, it's a messy slate. If you are on Golden State, I can see your path, especially if Steph Curry ends up playing, you know what I mean? But if all those guys are injured and not playing, I think this is just going to speak to a potential spot for Andrew Wiggins. He's been, I don't want to say a consistent factor here for this, obviously, Golden State team, but I mean, for lack of better terms, he's been a consistent guy. I think that he's probably, we don't have lines for him yet either because of all these injuries, but I think he's good for potentially like 16 to 17 points tonight, maybe 5 to 6 rebounds and a few assists. So I think he could be a look. I just wonder if his lines are going to be uber inflated because of, obviously, all of the injuries. So, yeah, I'm going to lean Detroit, as well as something maybe Andrew Wiggins related. And then in terms of the total, 219, you look at both these teams, the defense hasn't necessarily been there for Golden State as of late. They're still a fine defense. And then Detroit, they aren't that great of a defense, but the defense has been there for them as of late. But both of these teams do allow a decent field goal percentage against at the rim. Now, are they shooting the ball at the rim a ton? No, but I think 219 is just a little bit too low for a game like this. I see this finishing more in the 221 to 224 range, so I'll lean towards that. I don't think either defense is totally firing on all cylinders, and Detroit may be the better defense right now, which I would say is a good sign. They're playing at a way faster pace. They're the worst defensive efficiency. So if they're playing the better defense as of right now, then that means that what I would consider the overall better defense in Golden State isn't firing on all cylinders, which kind of leads me into a slight lean towards an over 219. Memphis taking on Houston here in this one. Houston coming off of a nice win against Washington. They scored 135 in that one. They've scored. This is not the biggest high-flying offense. Last two games, 119 and 135. Now, Memphis playing, I guess you could say, decent basketball for what they're dealt. Like, they've been, Desmond Bane in and out of the lineup. They haven't had Ja Morant in a while. Jaren Jackson Jr. now is questionable as well. So they have a ton of injuries that they've been dealing with, but still playing, I guess, fine basketball, right? In this one, I think it's going to come down to, and we'll jump into the dashboard here. By the way, guys, if you want access to this dashboard, the simple way to get it is going to the members section over on GuyBostonSports.com. You could sign up or log in. You head over NBA dashboard. It's going to pop right up for you guys. Can download it as a PDF and everything like that. It's really, really cool. If you don't have access, you're going to see this, which makes a lot of sense, right? You're going to see something that says, hey, go ahead and sign up. The membership levels that we offer right now, and again, this is just for the dashboard, so much more to come here. Membership levels, you get all of our dashboards, $4.99 per month. NBA only $2. If you want the NFL, just $2.99 per month. You get both of those because we do have currently NBA and NFL out. But yeah, the NBA dashboard, really, really cool. If you are logged in, you're going to see it broken down. It's going to update, I believe, in the next 15 minutes over here as well. So if you are logged in, you'll see it just like this. You can open up the PDF. Again, this is yesterday's. You can open up the PDF. You can zoom. You can download. You can print anything you want. It's kind of yours to do with what you want at that point, right? But you get each and every game broken down. So like I was saying, this game, what I'm looking at here, is really going to come down to this paint scoring. Both these teams like to kind of focus on in the paint, correct? Houston 10 and 8 in terms of restricted area, and obviously in the paint. And then Memphis, number one team in terms of points in the paint. But only one of these two teams is actually pretty good at preventing points in the paint, and that's going to be Houston. So I think that that's where I end up coming out on this game. I'm going to look at Houston minus the 1.5 points. That total sitting at 233.5 does seem like it's a high number, but I mean, you throw in the fact that Memphis has been playing at a crazy pace, I get it. But if I think Houston kind of controls this one and slow things down, is able to slow things down, I'm going to lean towards Houston, again, on the spread. So, yeah, give me a slight lean towards the under 233. We've cashed a couple Memphis unders in spots in which they didn't, have the best matchup at scoring down low, because they're not going to shoot all that tremendously from three. They're not a bad team from three, but even if they did, if we go back to the dashboard, even if they do say, okay, well, screw it, we can't score in the paint, let's move to shooting from the three-point range. Houston, number 2 in terms of preventing threes per game to teams. So, yeah, to me, this is a spot in which I think Houston can kind of do their thing defensively, and that's going to help out an under. So, give me Houston as well as the under. And then I would still consider a guy that cashed for us last time out. I'd look at Alperen Sengun yet again. I mean, this is a Memphis team that, yes, their lack thereof of defense is going to come, to some degree on the interior. I mean, they're not playing the best defense as of right now, but they're so injured, right? But I do still think that, Alperen Sengun, if he has a Zach Edey matchup or anything like that, like, he should be able to get crafty, potentially get to the line a few more times and whatnot. Now, his line's at 20.5. Is that a little high? Yes. So this may be a spot in which, again, I kind of refer back to what we did last time, which was take his line down. I think we ended up going 18 and 10 in a same game parlay. So he needs some rebounds and he needs some points. Maybe that's something of consideration, but this may just be an under. That might be my best look in this spot, to be completely honest. Next up, we have Dallas taking on Portland. Portland comes through for us yesterday, right? We actually almost rolled with the money line. We didn't, but we did say, okay, you know what the probable move is here is to go with New Orleans team total under. We got it at 115.5. They scored 100 points. They had like 38 points, whatever it was at halftime. You know what I mean? I think they scored, I want to say maybe it was 42 points at halftime. So that looked good from the jump. Portland now is on a back-to-back. Now, what I will say is that they've covered in 75% of their back-to-back games so far this season, so that's good for them. They do like to score in the paint a lot. Dallas's defense in the paint really isn't their forte. So there's an angle to get to Portland here. Dallas obviously is really banged up. Gafford might not play. You obviously still don't have Luka or Kyrie, so Yes, there's an angle to get to Portland, and normally if I were looking at this game and viewing it in a vacuum, I might even say, screw it, this might be one of those spots where we like Portland, which weirdly enough, and I wish this wasn't the case, but we've been like the Trailblazers whisperer this year. I mean, I'm able to identify games in which they can keep it close, or will play well, or play good defense. I wish we had a better team that we were the whisperer of this year. Are you kidding me? But this is a spot in which I normally would be looking at Portland, just because the things kind of check out. But on a back-to-back, I know I mentioned, yes, they do cover in a lot of their back-to-backs. I don't know if I'm thrilled with it. We have these two teams. They've played a few times this year. Portland's actually coming off of, what was it, about 11 days ago, a win against this Dallas team. Now, that was a banged-up Dallas team, no Luka. Kyrie had 46, and pretty much no one else scored. Now they don't even have that Kyrie aspect, right? So Portland should be able to crush them, but in reality, Dallas at home, still the better team. The other matchups they've had, now they were healthier, but Dallas scored 132, 137. I think this is probably a Dallas spot overall, but I'm going to lean towards maybe a Dallas team total over, because there's still something in my brain that says, okay, this Portland team may be able to, somewhat keep it close, and I don't want to mess with that. So I like the idea of either an over or a Dallas team total over probably more than anything. Right now, you can get Dallas team total over 111.5, which seems like it could be a decent spot to me. Again, the times that they've played this team so far, two of those, they absolutely, smoked that line over 111.5. And the time most recently, they lost, but they still scored 122. This Dallas team is averaging over their last 7 games here against Portland, 130.2. Is it a call for concern or cause for concern that no Luka, no Kyrie? Totally. But to me, this Dallas team should be able to at least score on the perimeter against this Portland team, which probably will help them out. So yeah, I lean Dallas as well as Dallas team total over and or the full game over. Player prop wise, maybe a Klay Thompson look, like one spot that I think you can definitely target this Portland team. I know I mentioned the perimeter, which obviously to some degree helps Klay Thompson as well, but also in the mid-range is where Portland kind of struggles, and Klay Thompson, definitely a guy that is going to consider shooting a decent amount of mid-range jumpers, you know what I mean? So that's a spot in which I'd consider for him as well. In fact, let me really quickly pull up this season, where does he rank in terms of mid-range jumpers overall? So Dallas, mid-range right now, yeah, he is just behind Kyrie and Luka, who are not playing. So obviously that's going to be a guy that's able to, take a few more mid-ranges without them in the game. So yeah, I don't mind that spot for Klay Thompson. Is it a dream spot? No, I probably, if I'm being honest with you guys, Dallas team total over or nothing in this game, but like I said, there's something in the back of my head that says Portland keeps us close. Not enough to put my hard-earned bread on it, though. Real quick, guys, if you want to further support what we're doing here and get some great merch at the same time, head over to GuyBostonSports.com/store. You'll be able to find it if you just go to the pinned comment and go to the final plays post. At the top of the menu of the site, you'll see store. Head over there. It'll redirect you to the Fade Me shop, guys. We have tons of great product and some new stuff that has just come out. So go check it out. Again, GuyBostonSports.com/store. I'll put some products on the YouTube merch bar here because it's integrated with YouTube as well to make it easy. It's just one click to the storefront. If you do want to support what we're doing here, go check it out. Tons of stuff in the sales section that we just added as well. So products that have already been hard marked, no need for a code or anything like that. They're already discounted. So again, if you want to support what we're doing here and get some great merch at the same time, head over there. That link will be in the pinned comment. GuyBostonSports.com/store. GuyBostonSports.com/store. GuyBostonSports.com/what? Store. You got it. Go ahead and check it out, guys. And again, great quality merch. I'd stand behind this stuff all day long. I guess I'd also stand in this stuff all day long. All right, Utah taking on Miami. In terms of what we have from injuries here, we do have a few to note. No John Collins, no Keontae George, and no Jordan Clarkson still for Utah. And then Jimmy Butler obviously out. Richardson and Love listed as game time decisions for Miami on that side of things. Is this a game in which I love? I wouldn't say so, but, Miami did show a little life in that game against Golden State. So I had told you guys prior to, right? I was like, I think this is a spot in which, we're on auto fade Miami. And then I said 9.5 points is too much to give that Miami team. They win the game outright against, I think the world seemed like they were on Golden State. So now my mind is kind of like, whoa, does Miami have a little bit of, balls? Are they playing well without Jimmy? Yada, yada, yada. I don't think that I can fully get there. This Miami team hasn't been all that tremendous on the perimeter, and that's where Utah's taking a lot of their shots as of late. So I think I'm actually going to lean towards the dog here, especially if they can get out and run. I don't necessarily think Miami fully keeps up with them. So, yeah, Miami showed me a little bit of life. They showed a little bit of grit. They showed a little bit of, like, how they could face adversity on a back-to-back playing against a Golden State team that needed a win. And they got the win. I give them credit for that, but in this spot, Utah, Utah is 2-3 in their last 3 games, 2-1 in their last 3 games. They've covered in 3 straight games, and if they can run on this team, Lauri Markkanen and company, I guess, if Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen can get out to the races, I like the spot for them. So yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Utah plus the 5.5 points. Almost think of this might be crazy. I don't know if it's warranted of the psycho alert alarm, but almost crazy is that I don't know if the point's going to matter here. I think that it's either like, Utah wins or Miami wins, but I'll still take the points. I think it's a little bit too crazy to take the plus 5.5. In terms of the total, like I mentioned, I think the path to success for Utah is to run. So I'm kind of hoping that they keep that mindset throughout the entire game. And if you watch that Miami and Golden State game, like not that coulda, shoulda, wouldas always are applicable in this industry. I say that all the time, right? That should have hit the over. Like 3 minutes left in the game, live total of 221.5, and it didn't come through. So I do like the idea of this one going up and over, and maybe that's even a way of saying, okay, now we don't need to worry about Utah plus the points or anything like that. Like if Utah contributes to this game, they probably up the tempo and push it up and over. So maybe that's a spot in which we'd consider. But again, player prop wise, I'd look at Sexton or Markkanen because I think Utah's going to run, and I think that if their points are going to come from somewhere, it's going to be those 2 guys. All right, Phoenix taking on Atlanta. So this one, I do think it's going to be a spot in which a lot of people are looking at Atlanta, and I'm actually on the other side of things. I like Phoenix. I think that everyone's grandmother's ex-boyfriend's sister's brother-in-law, I don't even know how that works out, is going to be on Atlanta. I do. But Phoenix should match up fairly well against this squad. Last time they played was last year, so not worth totally looking into that. And Atlanta, they had that game winner by Trey against Utah, but they didn't cover. They're now on the road, in which they're definitely a different team on the road, whereas Phoenix is a lot better at home, right? Not necessarily against the number, but overall definitely a lot better. And Phoenix, if they can hit their threes here, they should have some success. This is an Atlanta team that, if you don't know, now you know, is really, really bad at covering the perimeter. And one thing that we can say about Phoenix, yes, they've been in a little bit of a slide, or like what's going on with this team, losing outright to Charlotte a couple nights back. They have actually been okay at defending the perimeter, the paint, especially with the lineup change, with Plumlee starting, Ryan Dunn being a better defender than Bradley Beal. Like, Ryan Dunn is a really good defender, if you guys don't know. So I think this team's a little bit better defensively and doesn't let teams drive/score in the paint as well as we've seen them kind of get torched this year. So Atlanta's going to elect to shoot a ton of threes. I get it. But where they really do make their hay and make their bread is scoring in the paint. So if Phoenix can stop that, I don't mind taking them minus the points. And you can get 5.5 right now. I feel a lot more comfortable with like a 4.5. So I'd still probably ultimately buy a point, minus 135 over on MGM right now. That may be a move, but yeah, I think a lot of people are going to like Atlanta. I'm sure a lot of people in the comments are going to be like, why wouldn't you like Atlanta? Phoenix is a dumpster fire and all that. To me, it's an Atlanta spot. A Phoenix spot. Hopefully that was not like a Freudian slip. A Phoenix spot overall. Total-wise at 239, I like the under. If this Phoenix team is going to play good basketball and prevent Atlanta from scoring, I think that this is a spot where Phoenix's defense kind of shines. Now, do they have the best defense? I'm not saying that, but where they've been better, like I said, interior defense, if that can kind of come through, then I do think we have a decent spot and a decent chance for an under here in this spot. A player prop spot that I'm liking, and I have a couple ways of looking at this, would either be Devin Booker over in threes. It's at 2.5 for minus 125 right now. Last 2 times against this Atlanta team, 3 and 6 threes. I do think that he's going to have a decent volume because, like I already mentioned, Atlanta's not very good at preventing the 3-pointers, right? On the season, in his last 10 games here at home, so his last 10 home games, he's hitting 6 of his last 10, so that's good news, right? No Bradley Beal to take away shots at the beginning of the game either. He's still playing with Durant. So I would probably still kind of consider maybe a points plus assists line for him, because I think that he can go out there and obviously dish the rock around as well. But I like Devin Booker. He's going to take a ton of above the break threes as well tonight. He's also a guy that can kind of get into the mid-range, which you can score at the mid-range to some degree against this Atlanta team as well. But I think that he kind of fits the bill fairly well. If you want to pivot towards Durant Sure, I don't hate it. I mean, you're talking again about one of the best scorers in the NBA, and his line right now is what, 26 and a half. Last time he played Atlanta, he had, I think he was what, 19 points, something like that. The time before he had 35. He also could be a 3-pointer look, but he's super juiced at 1.5 at like minus 170. But I would target some perimeter guys here for Phoenix against Atlanta. All right, we got the Lakers taking on Charlotte. Now, this is another one where I feel like Charlotte's kind of becoming, and maybe I'm just overhyping it, but after that Phoenix win, they're a really likable team. They're actually 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. I feel like they're becoming a little bit of like a prize child in the NBA, whereas a lot of teams don't like the Lakers. So I could see some people being on Charlotte today, which does to some degree, I guess, make a little bit of sense. You know, like they have a decent interior defense. That's where the Lakers are going to score from. But the thing that makes me concern as Charlotte players that they love to shoot threes, and this Lakers team has not been a bad team against threes so far this season, right? So yeah, I probably end up wanting to lay the number with the Lakers, but 8's a little bit too much for my comfort. And I would imagine, you know, I've seen a couple 8.5s out there, so I would imagine if this thing's going up, it's going to get even harder for me to lay anything. So yeah, I probably end up, you know, sticking away from this one, but I would ultimately, if I had to, lean towards the Lakers, especially at home. The Lakers this season at home, 58.8% cover rate, so I like that spot for them. Last game they played, they lost against Dallas in a spot without Kyrie, without Luka. They should probably be somewhat fired up, right? And they're back home now, and they don't play for, they're actually home for, I want to say 4 or 5 games, whereas Charlotte, they are just beginning a massive West Coast trip. So probably a Lakers spot for me. Total wise, 222.5. This Charlotte team, if they get going, I do think that they can put up numbers, but neither one of these teams have been playing with a crazy pace as of right now. So maybe a slight lean towards the under, especially if I do like the idea of Charlotte having trouble from the perimeter. Sure, I'll lean towards the under, but honestly, it's Lakers are pass for me in this one, even from a player prop perspective. And I know not many like solid, let's lock them in player props in today's video, but it's just a weird slate to me. I don't really have any player props that I'm loving. If we do add any player props to the final plays that we didn't talk about in the video, I'll make sure to add a little bit of a blurb as to why I like it and what the rationale is, just so you guys know if you do like the idea or like the reasoning. But as of right now, no player props really in this game. And that is going to wrap it up, guys. Let me know if you made it this far into the video. I do truly appreciate everyone. Great night last night. Let's see if we can roll that thing right into tonight and have another good NBA night. But tons of content coming out and already out on the channel. My Sony Open golf picks video, that went live yesterday. We also have NFL videos coming out. H to H could be coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning. Tons of good stuff coming out on the channel, guys. So make sure to go ahead and check all that out. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.